Returning to Winslow was like stepping into a faded photograph, the kind where the edges blur, the colors fade, yet the essence is unmistakably rich with memories. After decades in the military, I thought I'd left this small town behind for good. But at 58, I found myself drawn back to the place where my roots had tangled with my first love, Claire. Driving through the familiar streets, the weight of nostalgia pressed against my chest. The houses were modest, the town square quaint, and the old diner stood unchanged, its neon sign flickering as if to welcome me back. But beneath that warm facade lay the chill of unasked questions and untold stories. I hadn't thought of Claire in years, not consciously, at least. Duty had pulled me away, a call to serve that had taken priority over everything else. Yet I remembered the unguarded laughter, the stolen kisses, the day I made a decision that would shift the course of our lives forever. I had left, choices had been made. I didn't know why I had returned now. The town felt heavy with a silence that spoke of absence, and I was painfully aware of the letter I never sent. As I parked in front of my childhood home, I noticed how time had altered it. The paint peeled like old skin, and the roses my mother once nurtured had turned into thorned weeds. Memories rushed back, and I experienced a fleeting sense of warmth, only to be snuffed out by the icy grip of regret. I grabbed my bag and stepped out, the crunch of gravel underfoot startling in the stillness. The first few steps toward the porch felt heavier than the rest of my journey combined. Would Claire still live here? Would she even want to see me? With a hesitant knock, the hollow sound echoed through the stillness. I held my breath, half expecting the ghost of my youth to answer. Instead, it was Claire who opened the door, her features aged by time, yet soft and warm like the summer days we'd spent beneath the oak tree. Her eyes, once bright and alive, were tinged with sorrow. "Jack," she breathed, almost a whisper, and I felt a lifetime's weight shift in that single word. "Claire," I replied, the name a jagged whisper. I took a step forward, but we both hesitated, marred by the ghosts of our shared past. "Come in," she said finally, motioning toward the dim light of her home. I followed her inside. The air was thick with memories and unspoken words, but heavy with the smell of freshly brewed coffee, a welcome scent of comfort. "Would you like some?" she offered, her voice steady but laced with the tremors of the past. "No, thanks," I said, my throat tight. I found a seat near the window. She stood, uncertain. After several moments of silence, she finally spoke. "I heard you were back. They said you were retired." "Yeah," I nodded, the word feeling heavier than its simplicity conveyed. "Just got tired of the life. Thought it was time to come home." "What do you think of Winslow now?" Claire asked, her tone tentative. I shrugged, searching for the right words. "It looks the same. And yet, it feels different." Claire glanced down, the shadows playing on her face. The light framed her with an ethereal glow, but the darkness in her eyes belied a deeper sorrow. "Things change," she replied quietly. "Sometimes faster than we can adapt." I wanted to tell her how sorry I was, how the years had been a blur of duty and distance, but the only words I managed were, "I didn't mean to." "Not now, Jack." Claire interrupted softly, her gaze piercing through the years. "We can't change what happened." As emotions surged and retreated like waves against a rocky shore, I felt the distance between us shatter then splinter. I had returned to the town where I had left her, only to find a woman weighed down by loss. The husband she once loved was gone, leaving her with echoes of the promises we had once made. "Do you think, would you like to catch up sometime?" I suggested, my heart pounding as I fumbled for the right words. The hope rested upon a fragile thread, but it was all I could muster. She hesitated before nodding slowly. "Maybe. I'll think about it." The words felt like an admission that acknowledged more than just our past but also the tangles of grief we had each carried alone. Days turned into weeks as I settled back into my childhood home, the silence ringing in my ears like a distant war drum. Each morning, I woke to the familiar sights of Winslow, yet it felt alien, like a stranger wearing a mask of familiar faces. I hadn't reached out to Claire again, still wrestling with the shadows of our unfinished business. Then one afternoon, as I rummaged through the attic, I stumbled upon a dusty box, crammed with remnants of my past, the little things I had saved that had once held meaning. Letters from Claire, unopened and waiting for me like ghosts condemned to linger. I dared to open one. The paper felt fragile between my fingers, her delicate handwriting curling across the pages. "Jack, I miss you more than I can say," it read. "Life here goes on, but everything feels dulled. It's as if the sun doesn't shine quite as bright without you." Each line was laced with yearning and confusion, and something inside me shattered, pouring guilt into the cracks I had so carefully masked. I could have answered her, I could have returned sooner, owned up to my cowardice. But letters remained unanswered. Days turned into weeks, then months. The timeline blurred, covering the truth with bitterness and silence. I rang Claire the next day, my heart suspended in trepidation. "Jack." Her voice was soft, almost hesitant, as if she feared what I was about to say. "I found some letters," I admitted, swallowing hard against the rush of long-buried pain. Silence stretched between us, heavy and palpable. "Why didn't you ever write back?" she finally asked, her voice tinged with a vulnerability I hadn't expected. "I was young and selfish. I thought my duty to the military was more important than what I had with you," I admitted, shame flooding my voice. "I thought I was doing the right thing. Maybe." She sighed, a sound that echoed through the phone line. "But it doesn't change the past." "I know," I whispered, feeling the futility of my words. "But perhaps we can find some peace now. Together." The silence crackled with uncertainty before she finally replied, "I'll meet you tomorrow at the old oak." "Tomorrow then," I breathed, heart racing at the thought of facing the past head-on, of standing where it all began. When I arrived the next day at the old oak, the sunlight filtered through its leaves, dappling the ground in patches of gold and green. I leaned against the trunk, memories washing over me, the laughter, the warmth, all tainted by the distance and regret that had grown in the years since. Claire approached slowly, her silhouette framed in the soft light. We were both older now, the lines of time tracing stories on our faces. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice barely breaking through the hush. "I thought it was time we addressed everything," she replied, her gaze steady. Her strength awed me, something I hadn't expected to see after all these years. We stood in silence for a moment, then I started. "I never realized how much I missed this place, and you." Her eyes softened, the barriers of the past momentarily dissolving. "It was hard without you, Jack. I wish I could turn back time," I confessed, feeling tears threaten. "You deserved better than silence. And you deserved honesty," Claire responded, her voice a fragile whisper. With that simple exchange, something shifted between us, a bridge re-established over the river of regret. We could not escape the choices we had made, nor the time that would never return, but perhaps redemption lay in the possibility of our shared grief. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows on the ground, we began to share stories, the laughter nestled within the pain. It was a slow unraveling, a fragile rebirth of companionship built over years of isolated sorrow. Reunited not just by the past, but through the understanding that sometimes, grief can reshape into something beautiful. Days turned into a rhythm, simple moments shared over coffee and hesitant laughter, the connection slowly weaving itself back together like a fragile tapestry. But even as we traced the outlines of our old lives, I could sense an underlying tension. Claire carried a weight I couldn't fully comprehend, an ebbing sorrow that slumbered beneath the surface. One afternoon, while watching the sun sink beyond the horizon, I turned to her. "Tell me about him, your husband," I ventured, needing to breach the wall between us. Claire hesitated, the shadow of memory crossing her face. "His name was David. We met shortly after you left." There was a pause, her thoughts hanging in the air, weighing heavily. "He was a good man, Jack. We were happy for a while, but, like all things, that happiness can flicker out, especially in the face of loss. Loss? I echoed, my stomach nodding. He passed away 2 years ago. The cancer came on quickly. It felt like one moment we were planning our future, and in the next, he was gone. I felt the ground shift beneath me with the weight of her words. In another life, could we have grown old together? I'm so sorry, Claire. The sincerity hung in the air. It's okay, really, she said, forcing a smile through the pain. He wouldn't have wanted me to dwell in sadness. Life has a way of pushing us forward. But I feel like Jack, she interrupted softly, you left, but I didn't hold it against you. We were both lost in our own lives. Yet here we are now, I replied, our eyes locking. Closer than we've been in decades. I think we're finding a way to work through it, Claire said softly. But that doesn't mean it's easy. There are still pieces that remain broken. I'll be here, I vowed, hoping to convey the unwavering loyalty that had always been buried deep within me. Days passed, and with each shared moment, I began to peel away my own layers of guilt. I began volunteering at the local community center, pouring energy into rebuilding the town that had shaped me. Claire joined me, and together we crafted anew, the laughter ringing through the hallways like music. But shadowed moments still lingered, memories of long-ago decisions that remained cold realities. One evening, an unexpected knock broke the silence as we finished dinner. I opened the door to find an old friend from the army, someone I'd fought alongside. Jack. I was told you were back. We need to catch up. His name, Mike, stirred something deep within, a reminder of the void left by my choices. Mike, great to see you, I greeted, struggling to suppress the swell of shame. Claire's expression shifted, a flash of recognition dancing behind her eyes that mirrored a quiet understanding. Hey there, Claire. Heard about David. I'm so sorry. Tough break, Mike said, his voice somber. Thank you, she replied, her demeanor composed though her eyes betrayed a flicker of hurt. As we spoke, the waves of memory crashed against the walls I had built. I recounted stories of our service, of sacrifices weighed against the backdrop of life-altering choices. Mike's laughter echoed in the space but also amplified the ghosts beneath the surface. I watched Claire as she retreated slightly, hiding her unease behind a polite smile, and my heart sank as I realized the depth of the wounds we had yet to address. Let's catch up soon, Jack, Mike called as he stepped out, leaving us alone with the awkward silence. That was unexpected, Claire said, her voice laced with an edge of discomfort. I know, I admitted, I wasn't prepared for him to bring that back. No one ever is, Claire replied quietly. Tell me what you're feeling, Claire. I pressed, longing for honesty, but I sensed her walls rise again. After several moments, she spoke quietly. We've shared so much, yet sometimes I feel like we're still holding back, holding each other at arm's length. Maybe we're all scared, I said, desperation edging my voice. But I don't want to be afraid anymore. We stood in the weight of that vulnerable moment, both wrestling with truths long concealed beneath layers of grief. Escaping the haunting past required more than words, it demanded a reckoning. Can we move past the silence and burden of responsibility and reclaim tomorrow? I pleaded, those words feeling both raw and revealing. Claire nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Let's work together. Let's reclaim the pieces we broke. With that fragile promise, we found the resolve to forge ahead, hearts braving vulnerability and healing. In the wake of shared loss, we discovered renewed purpose together. We transformed grief into possibility, loyalty molded from declarations we hadn't uttered in years. As days turned into weeks, our connection blossomed, forged solid on new foundations, our shared histories now intertwined with the promise of the life yet to come. I no longer carried the burden of betrayal. Instead, we learned to walk forward together, reclaiming the time we thought lost, taking the first steps toward hope and healing. In Winslow, the old oak stood tall amidst a world painted with nostalgia, whispering promises of tomorrow amidst the winds of change. And in that newfound path, perhaps we could face the light of the future, hand in hand. The days unfurled like fresh pages, filled with promise yet edged with uncertainty. Claire and I stepped cautiously into this fragile bond we had rekindled, both of us eager for companionship but haunted by our respective pasts. The laughter that began to fill the gaps felt refreshing, a healing balm against the scars of lost time and unspoken pain. As summer deepened, Winslow buzzed with life. The annual county fair approached, a vibrant tapestry of color and sound that faintly echoed our youthful days. I suggested we attend the fair together, hoping the warmth of the sunlit carnival could wash away the shadows lingering over us. "Do you think it would be too much?" Claire asked, her fingers subconsciously gripping the hem of her shirt, a physically betraying gesture of the unease beneath her calm surface. "It could be fun," I replied, my optimism buoyant. "Let's embrace it. Just two friends enjoying the simple pleasures." After a moment's silence, she finally nodded. "Okay, I'll help you find your inner child again." The fair arrived, bright and bustling. The smell of popcorn and cotton candy filled the air, mingling with the excited chatter of families and children. I could see Claire relaxing gradually, a laughter bubbling at the surface as she commented on the ridiculousness of the carnival games. As we wandered, I caught glimpses of her carefree spirit breaking free from the chains of sorrow. We tried our hand at various games, won a silly stuffed bear, and indulged in an abundance of fried foods, all while trading playful banter. For the first time in long ages, it felt as if the weight of the past lessened, if only momentarily. As night fell, the twinkling lights from the rides framed the sky with a glittering glow. I glanced at Claire, her face illuminated by a mixture of joy and something I couldn't quite pinpoint, a vulnerability or maybe hope. "Jack," she said suddenly, her tone shifting. Well, it feels good. But still frightening." I nodded, understanding the thin thread of trepidation woven through her words. "We've both been through a lot. It's perfectly okay to feel scared. But is it worth it?" she pressed, her eyes searching mine. "Can we really rebuild from what we lost?" Silence enveloped us as I contemplated her question. "We can try. It won't be simple, but I'm here, Claire. I'm not going anywhere this time." Before she could respond, a couple approached, friends from our youth. Their sight sent a jolt through Claire. With polite smiles, we shook hands, but the undercurrents of memory pulled taut beneath the surface. "Claire, it's been so long," one of them exclaimed, though the awkwardness hung like an unwanted ghost overhead. "We heard about David. I'm so sorry." The conversation shifted quickly, flitting from pleasantries to updates about life, but I sensed Claire retreating, her smile becoming a forced mask. I caught her eye, and we exchanged a knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement of grief. After the couple moved on, I pulled her aside. "Are you okay?" I asked gently, concern prickling my skin. I didn't expect this tonight," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's still raw, Jack. I want to be happy, but I can't deny the pain either." "It's part of the process," I assured her, taking her hands in mine. "You don't have to rush it. We're in this together." After a moment, she nodded, the flickering doubt in her eyes momentarily dampened. We retreated to a more secluded area, away from the crowd, where the fair's lights twinkled against the night sky. "Let's take a moment," she suggested, inhaling the night air. "There is so much to feel, but maybe we can sit with it a little longer." Sitting side by side on an empty bench, we sat in comfortable silence, surrounded by laughter and joy yet feeling the weight of our shared losses. The nights were always the hardest, when darkness weighed heavily, revealing the raw, tender edges of the heart. The next day was a turning point, the freedom from the fair gave way to our habitual routines. Yet a distance crept in, just a whisper this time, that urged us to delve deeper into our respective pasts beyond shared moments of joy and laughter. Once again, I found myself at the community center, mental resolve forging stronger bonds with the town, when I received a message from Claire. She suggested a quiet dinner together, an invitation that set my heart racing at the possibilities cloaked beneath our everyday interactions. Dinner arrived, but rather than the expected light atmosphere, the tension felt palpable, a current zipping between us. I could see uncertainty dancing in her eyes, a melange of excitement overshadowed by vulnerability. "Jack." She started, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been thinking about how much we've both held back, how we've tiptoed around profound truths. I feel like I need to share my grief with you. Not just the loss of David, but everything that followed." Recognition burned within me, stirred by empathy and understanding. "Tell me, Claire. I'm here to listen." She took a sip of water, her hands shaking. "After you left, I thought I'd lost you for good. I fell into a darkness I didn't expect, and when David came into my life, I thought perhaps he could fill that void. It's okay to have hoped for happiness again," I assured gently, aware of the pieces she was revealing. "But was I trying to fill a void or run away from you?" Her gaze pierced mine, unflinching. "I can't deny that I entered that relationship with the ghosts of us still haunting me." "I understand," I murmured, swallowing hard against the wave of pain that surged anew. "I was so caught up with my world that I didn't give you the chance to heal, or the closure we needed. I abandoned you without words of comfort. And I clung on to a love that wasn't meant to replace you," she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. We both sat in the aftermath of our truths, words spoken in open vulnerability, the ache of years spent in solitude laid bare. At that moment, we understood, healing wasn't linear, it is a complex mosaic of broken pieces, whispers of hope beckoning to find their rhythm once more. "I don't want you to feel guilty, Claire," I urged. "Life led us on different paths, but you deserve to embrace whatever happiness you can find. We can reminisce with grace rather than grief if we allow ourselves to." Claire studied me, the wavering light from the candles reflecting the awakening of understanding in her eyes. Yet, the burden of her grief still lingered, like a shadow refusing to part. "I'm grateful you're back in my life," she whispered, breath hitching. "But my heart still bleeds for the years we lost, and I fear we're caught in a limbo between then and now." I reached across the table, intertwining my fingers with hers, a silent promise not to let go. "Then let's keep moving forward. Let's gel together into something new, a friendship steeped in understanding and loyalty. Even if it can't be everything we desire." Claire squeezed my hand, emotions swirling between us as we took that first brave step toward healing. The scars of the past would remain, but together we could transform them into the fabric of new beginnings. The summer waned into a palette of autumn hues as Claire and I continued our journey. Layer by layer, we curated a beautiful bond from the remnants of grief and guilt. Our friendship deepened, constructed not from illusions of our past but from reality, honest and unyielding. Yet, just when I felt the strength of our connection solidifying into something profoundly beautiful, the world outside brought unexpected challenges. One afternoon, as I volunteered, I received a call, a notification from the local community center expressing desperate needs for funding in light of upcoming renovations. I quickly gathered my thoughts, urgency behind each word as I shared the news with Claire over coffee. "We need to do something. If our town is going to thrive, it needs our help. Do you think we could organize a fundraiser?" Claire mused, her eyes alight with renewed purpose. "We have so much still to give, not just to each other but to this community." With Claire's enthusiasm and my connection to former comrades in the military, the project snowballed. We put together an event combining a charity auction, performances from local artists, and an invitation to everyone, former residents and newcomers alike. As the event drew nearer, something shifted within Claire. The closer we came to showcasing our hard work, the more I saw those familiar shadows creeping back into her gaze. One evening, as we decorated the community hall for the event, I decided to confront her about it. "Claire, is everything all right?" She stilled, lost in thought for a moment. "I'm fine," she replied, but the look on her face screamed otherwise. "Don't hide from me. We've come too far for that." She sighed, finally meeting my gaze with a sense of weariness. "You're right. It's just. I guess I worry that once this event happens, I won't have an excuse to see you every day. Maybe it'll remind me how fragile this all is. Every beginning has its uncertain edges, I said softly, rising to close the space between us. But I've never been more rooted in the present than I am now. You're not losing me. In fact, I want to build on this. On us. Her eyes searched mine, flickering with a mix of fear and hope. I'm not ready to lose you again. I still grieve for David, and sometimes I feel the pull of the past. But I don't want to let that pain dictate who we can be together. Then don't, I urged, energized by her honesty. Let's take this leap together. I'm here, right by your side, no fear, just faith that we can discover what tomorrow holds. At that moment, whatever barrier remained cracked further, inviting understanding and even possibility. We moved closer as we shared a healed embrace, a hug infused with the light of hope uncloaked by shadows of regret. The fundraiser day arrived, vibrant and alive, laughter hummed through the community hall, filled to the brim with people sharing stories, memories, and most importantly, a sense of belonging captivating the air. As Claire and I floated through the crowd, it was impossible to deny the strength of the connection born not out of forgetfulness of the past but rather acceptance. Amid the cheer and celebration, I pulled Claire aside for a brief moment. I want you to know that you deserve to embrace happiness again, Claire. Whatever shape it takes. And I want you to know, she replied, her voice trembling with emotion, that we've survived so much together. The past will always be part of our story. But it doesn't have to dictate our future, we'll write that together. In this small town encased in shades of autumn, we found ourselves not just battling old battles and mending broken hearts, but we began forging memories anew. Instead of running away from the shadows, we stood hand in hand, confronting our past and welcoming what awaited us in the light. In Winslow, amid laughter and strengthened ties, I realized that surrendering guilt for a promise of tomorrow was the only path forward, a chance to not just exist but thrive. Claire and I took our first steps into a future unafraid, open to rediscovering the bonds of companionship and reciprocity where loyalty kissed the wounds of shared memory. And as the golden leaves fell around us like confetti, we took that leap, committed to reclaim the life we both deserved, together. With the fundraiser behind us, the air shimmered with a sense of accomplishment, our efforts had breathed new life into the community center. Yet, amidst the celebration, I felt the ghost of my past lurking, a reminder of the choices I made that had cost us years. Claire and I had taken monumental steps toward rebuilding our connection, but an unresolved tension still hung in the air, tethered to the unhealed parts of our hearts. The quiet weeks following the event felt both freeing and daunting. It was a space filled with promise yet haunted by the shadows we sought to escape. One evening, over plates of steaming homemade pasta at the diner, the weight of the past found its voice. "Claire, can I ask you something?" I began, feeling the heaviness sitting at the pit of my stomach. "Of course," she replied, her fork pausing over her plate, a hint of wariness creeping into her expression. "Do you ever wonder if we could have had something different? If I hadn't left?" Each word hung in the air, a thread connecting the two of us that felt fragile. Her gaze dropped. "I think about it, often, actually." The admission was accompanied by a deep exhale. "But what good does it do us, Jack? We can't dwell in what-ifs without losing ourselves entirely." "True," I murmured, sensing the tension linger. "But I want you to know how deeply I regret the choices I made. Leaving you, it felt like I was running from everything, and mostly, from myself." "But you came back," Claire replied, her voice soft yet firm. "You made a choice to return, to try to rebuild from the fragments. We've done wonderfully together, but you can't keep living in the shadow of your past. We both need to let that go." The murmurs of the diner's customers faded as we locked eyes, the silence tinged with silent pleading. "I know you're right, but every day I'm overwhelmed with how much I've missed. It's not just the time lost, but the pain caused that weighs heavier." Claire reached across the table, her hand covering mine. "We both have scars, Jack, we can't erase them. But we can embrace the reality of our pasts while forging a new path. Let's pledge to be honest, even when it hurts. It's the only way forward. With that simple gesture, the promise felt tangible between us, a thread binding our intertwined fates in a future imbued with truth and healing. As autumn faded into winter, Winslow became a quiet landscape draped in white, the falling snow blanketing the cracks of our past. With the new season came the change of perspective. I found myself volunteering more, spending weekends with Claire, and navigating deeper conversations about our painful histories. We started a project, an initiative to offer grief counseling to those in our community struggling with loss, an endeavor driven by shared experiences. Weeks rolled by with long planning sessions and late-night brainstorming, our laughter mingling with the ghosts of sorrow we were learning to tame. But even as the project thrived, fear loomed on the horizon. One evening, Claire invited me to join her at David's grave, a vulnerability she had slowly been building towards. "I want you to see where he rests," she said, her voice steady, yet I could detect the tremor beneath. The winter chill clung to the air as we arrived at the cemetery. Cold and crisp, the snow crunched beneath our feet as Claire led me to a small stone nestled among the evergreens. I stood back, allowing her space to speak. "David was a good man," she began, her voice a soft cadence against the wind. "He took care of me when you left, even though I still carried you in my heart. There's a heaviness I carry because of my affection for him juxtaposed with the unresolved love for you." I swallowed hard, emotion surging. I had no right to feel the ache of jealousy, yet it clutched at my throat. "I'm so sorry, Claire," I breathed, the admission raw. "I never meant to hurt you. You've always been my harbor, and to know you've suffered weighs on me." "I don't want you to carry it anymore," she replied. "I'm here now, with you. My heart can hold both. We can honor David without it dictating our future." We stood in silence, the two of us allowing presence and acknowledgement. And then, unable to contain the fortification of emotion, Claire wrapped her arms around me. I held her tightly, a mutual embrace against the chill and despair of the past. As we stood together at the grave, tears flowed. We cried for the years lost, for the love that bloomed between pain. We grieved all the moments that should have been, but now we were here, holding on as tightly as possible, crafting an understanding that allowed space for love, loss, and new beginnings. Spring arrived, lifting the heavy mantle of winter to reveal blossoming life all around. The lilacs and dogwoods awakened the town, infusing it with color, fragrance, and warmth. The world was changing, bursting forth with possibilities while we found ourselves leaning deeper into life together. The grief counseling project had blossomed, creating a ripple effect of healing for those who came through the center's doors. Slowly, barriers began to dissolve, and connection between the community sparked flame anew. Claire and I were often seen side by side, leading workshops, providing support, and invigorating one another with a sense of purpose. On one particularly crisp morning, as we prepared for a community gathering, Claire turned to me, her eyes glistening with pent-up emotion. "Jack, I never thought I would.